right, welcome, everybody. Now batting for the Phillies. A Mike and Bob Phillies chat. We do have a new guy in the Phillies lineup, it appears. Are we excited? We'll dive into that as well. What's going on, everybody? It is a Mike and Bob Phillies baseball chat. It is a happy holiday season. We are back on the BFA Live channel at Mike Gill Show. At BFA Live Sports, wherever you can get us. Subscribe. We don't have a lot of time, but we have a bunch of moves we want to get into. So we're going to do it. What's up, Bob?
What's going on, Mike? You got Phillies fever here yet or what? You excited?
We're getting there. As soon as Christmas gets here, literally today, we are less than 2 months from pitchers and catchers reporting. So we got that. But the Phillies obviously signed Adolis Garcia, 1 year, $10 million. This is the same deal they gave Max Kepler last year, basically a flyer. This is a right-handed bat that plays the outfield. This is exactly what you've been asking for, but what do we think?
Yeah, well, I see a lot of people saying this is Max Kepler 2.0, and it might be. I have a lot of thoughts on this signing, actually, and look, I'll start here. At least he hits right-handed. He wasn't that great against left-handed pitching last year, so I don't know that it really solves the problem. But
reverse splits.
25-plus homer potential, and he plays a very good defensive right field, and that will certainly be an upgrade over Nick Castellanos. We know what the metrics say about him. Look, I think that the signing in a vacuum is okay. It could work out. If it doesn't work out, they could probably pivot again at the deadline and kind of look and assess their options and add to this outfield. But they are sort of a prisoner of their own success and their own lack of success in the postseason. This is a team that won 96 games a year ago, and it's a really good baseball team. But people want different. People want better. They want to feel like that they've taken measures to go out and knock out the Dodgers, or a team that will be staying in their way in October. And when you do this move and you have Dave Dombrowski sit there and look at you and say afterwards, like, this is pretty much it. We got to figure out catcher, but this is our team. It's hard to really sit here and clap your hands and get fired up about the move.
All right, so there's a lot here. One, do we believe him when he says this is it? The outfield's set. Those are the words he used. That means no Bader, no Kyle Tucker, no Bellinger. Not that we thought, but you take him for his word when he says our outfield is set.
Well, I think so. Is there some situation that kind of plays out where Harrison Bader's market is much cooler than Harrison Bader and his team hoped for? Maybe. And at that point, can the Phillies enter the conversation and say, hey, if this is only going to take 2 years, $20 million, or we can get them on a 1 year deal at $12 million, is that something that they would then entertain? Possibly. But if this is going to go out and be a 3 year deal, I think it's a non-starter. If it's going to take over $10 million a year on a multi-year, 2 year deal, I think it's a non-starter. I just think it's unlikely at this point that they're going to be back. I don't necessarily buy Dave's comments that this is the team. I think that there's a door open at second base. I certainly think there's a door open at third base to continue to look for avenues to upgrade. But is it very possible that this is the team? Yeah, it is at this point.
Well, okay, so Crawford, it sounds as if they're going to give him this shot, and it sounds like it's going to be center field, right? I mean, is that the read you're getting, that you would have Crawford in center, Marsh and Kemp play left, and Adolis Garcia play right field? Now, is that much better than the outfield you had when you entered the playoffs last year? I don't know. Crawford's a total wild card here. I think the funny part is like, for years you're like, play Crawford, play Crawford, play Crawford. Well, now they're telling you are, and you're like, that's not good enough. Okay, I understand that. But Adolis Garcia, this is an ultimate hit or miss. Is he a better right fielder? Yes. His offensive numbers are worse than Nick Castellanos. I mean, you're getting a worse offensive player than Nick Castellanos, with the caveat of, could a change of scenery? Could he unlock a 39 home run year that he had a couple of years ago? Maybe. But a lot of swing and miss, a lot of chase. Where does he hit in the lineup? I think there's a lot of questions with this deal.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. I mean, as it pertains to Garcia specifically, you talk about a guy had 271 on base percentage a year ago. It's dreadful, right? There's a lot of holes in his swing. He expanded the zone way too much. And, Rob actually talked a little bit about that yesterday. Can we get him in a place where he has better command of the strike zone that would help him get back to where he was in 22, 23 when he was the ALCS MVP? People here don't want to hear this, but Kevin Long remains one of the most respected hitting coaches in the game. Whether or not people here want to hear that, I get it. I totally understand it, especially how frustrating they've been for long stretches and in October specifically. But I think that there's some thought that you get him a set of eyes, a different staff, different city, that there's still the potential that he could come out, be a 240 hitter, maybe get the on-base percentage up to around 300, and run into somewhere between 25 and maybe, 33 home runs. Is it possible? Yes. That's why they did the deal. And if nothing else, I think the Phillies are prioritizing outfield defense. Crawford certainly has the speed to play center, but he's still a little bit raw and unrefined out there. So I think that it's a priority for them to have a plus defensive player in right field. Look, you go around this outfield. I think this is a bottom 10 outfield in baseball, right? Like I do. And I thought it was a dreadful outfield until they got Bader, and Bader played over his head for 2 months last year. But you look at it, and if I said to you, well, look, Brandon Marsh last year got off to a dreadful start. But over his last 105 games, he hit 301 with an 835 OPS. He had 356 on base percentage. Brandon Marsh, for the final 4+ months last season, was an excellent hitter. He stunk in the playoffs, though. And this is I'm making a point here. I apologize, I'm a little long-winded, but I'll get to where I'm ultimately driving at this. You platoon him with Otto Kemp, who showed real signs of being a productive major league hitter last year. You go Marsh, Kemp, platoon, and left. Is that a bad left fielder from an offensive standpoint? Probably not. You look at Crawford, hit 340 in AAA. Everyone wanted him up here. Could he use his speed and his bat-to-ball skills to hit 300 with not a lot of power, but be a guy that can create some chaos, give you a different look in your lineup? That's very possible. And if Garcia happens to run into 30 home runs in right, plays a good defensive right field, it's not bad. But there's a lot of ifs in that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, here's a lot of the questions I have now based off of what you said. It's okay if Marsh and Kemp are platooning and they hit eighth. Okay, those guys are hitting eighth. They give you something. Where am I hitting Crawford?
Yeah, look, I don't think – just knowing what you know about the Phillies, right? I know a lot of people say, well, if he's a 300-plus hitter, that's going to be his game, and he's going to steal bases, and he can turn singles into doubles, and he's got an 80 speed on the scouting scale. Why not hit him at the top? I don't think, at least coming in, that they would put that amount of pressure on this kid. By the way, the one thing that gets everyone a little hard to get juiced up for this whole thing is that when they had this egregiously atrocious offensive outfield last year, everyone's like, Crawford is the solution. And they wouldn't bring him up, basically telling you that he wasn't going to tip the scales. And now he's your everyday center fielder on a team who's trying to break down the door and go win a World Series.
Right.
It's a tough sell. It's
right.
Not
that's why
a move. It's just hard to get up for the move from a fan perspective.
So the peel of the onion is I see Crawford probably hitting ninth, which means what? Stott has to hit eighth, which means Marsh and Kemp are now hitting seventh, which means now Real Muto is probably hitting sixth, which means Bohm is heading five. Or four.
Yeah.
It sounds as if you're telling me Crawford is an upgrade replacement, yet he's probably hitting in the eighth or ninth spot in the order. He also hits left-handed, so you have a potential of Marsh, Stott, and Crawford all hitting left-handed back. You can't do that, so now you got another problem. Thompson indicated that he would like to hit Harper 2 and Schwarber behind him. I don't know how much that helps out the guy you just paid, the huge contract to have no protection behind him now. Unless Garcia finds.
My guess is that Schwarber and Harper hit back-to-back this year. I think that we're going to move away from Schwarber in the leadoff finally. But we've been down this road
before last year.
They move away from that, and they haven't been able to.
But like they put Schwarber hit 2 last year, Harper hit 3. Schwarber has this great year. Harper struggles. Well, Schwarber's got Harper protecting him. Harper has Bohm protecting him. Okay, now you want to flip him. Okay, who's protecting Schwarber now?
Right.
Now you run into a similar problem.
Look, they're a bat short. They've been a bat short for 3 years. I think that you and I both agree with that. What you look at here, though, and like let's talk about Alec Bohm, because he's probably the one guy right now, other than the uncertainty at catcher. I still think that the belief is that Real Muto resigns, but that has not been the slam dunk and the quick, the quick solution that some people had hoped for. So you look at Bohm and you say, like, okay, that's probably where they move on, or they could still move on. The most likely spot for them to still tinker with. And can you get a third baseman in here that would help your 2-3-4 mix in the middle of the lineup? And I think that the problem is, for me right now, like I don't like Alec Bohm. I don't think he's a winning baseball player. I just don't. You know that. But I on the flip side of that, are you going to do a lot better than a 29-year-old who is 2 years removed from having 60 extra base hits, 44 doubles, 15 home runs, plays an okay third base? Like, do you have a solution that is really going to be an upgrade over that other than that you don't like his body language, or that it would be nice to just bring in a fresh face?
You have to almost be willing to take, 50 cents on the dollar, and also know I can get Bregman, like all locking in here. Like, hey, I'm willing to give Bohm away for almost half price because I know I can get an upgrade over him. That's your only shot.
It's really hard to do that, though, when you're a team that's pushing the luxury tax thresholds and you're essentially starting with a $15 million punt on Nick Castellanos' deal. Like, at best. Like, at best. Like, what are you going to get for Castellanos in terms of a return? Nothing. And if you are able to move that deal, I mean, I would faint if someone paid him $10 million. If they picked up 10 of the 20 and the Phillies got to keep 10, that would be massive for the Phillies.
I want to ask you this, because I got on the radio show, I got this, people that text in all these trades, like this idea of maybe I'm too low on Castellanos. Trading Castellanos for another bad contract. Like, hey, we'll give you Castellanos, you give us Jordan Hicks, or we'll take Tanner Scott. Like, I'm like, why would the Dodgers or the Red Sox want Nick Castellanos?
Yeah, those teams that, are considered to be on the short list of contenders, I don't think look at Nick Castellanos and say, like, well, we're a Nick Castellanos away from really taking the next step. I think that the teams that would be interested in Castellanos are teams that are trying to compete, trying to add some veteran legitimacy to their product, that could use that presence, a guy that could maybe hit 22, 25 home runs if everything goes well. And you get them on the cheap, similar to what the Phillies just did with Garcia. Like, that's the landing spot, except that Garcia brings a little bit more, so he's more interesting to the Phillies. To me, it's like one of those mid-tier teams. It's just trying to add some legitimacy to the product.
It's a mid-market team that says, look, we don't have the money to spend on a guy with his resume. We'll take a shot. And if we fall out of the race, maybe we can trade him and get back a low-level prospect, but you got to pay us thing. I don't think you're getting a bad contract. Tanner Scott doesn't even fit the Phillies. He's a left-handed bullpen arm. They have 3 lefties in their bullpen here, so that doesn't make but I don't see Castellanos getting traded for, in other words, a player like him who's a bad contract who they need to get rid of.
Yeah, so, I mean, to come back to where they're at, like, Garcia is your right fielder.
Yeah.
In center, I think it is Crawford, and right now they have like Rojas as a safety valve, right?
And you don't platoon those guys, right? He hits lefties, you give him that chance.
Yeah, I think that Crawford's up here to get like a real run, at least early on.
Well, but the lefty plays, 75% of the time in the platoon. So but he does hit lefties at the minor league level. You give him you give him that shot.
Give him some runway and see if he can do it. Now, they talk about Gabriel Rincones Jr. and again, that's another name where it's like, sure, that's interesting, but when you're talking about a team that won 96 games, and that's my refrain in this whole thing, is that you're talking about a team that won 96 games a year ago, that is a very good elite level team, and you're looking for things that are going to tilt and really put them in a conversation where you say they will and can beat the Dodgers this year. They really can go out and be the force of the National League, where you feel like when it comes October, this is different. Our DNA is different. Our feel is different. And like these guys that we're talking about, it's nothing against them. It's just that it's hard to sit here on December 17th and look at this and say like, yeah, it will be different next year. I have no doubt that the Phillies will win over 90 games next year. They have some concerns or some questions in their starting rotation, more so than in past years. But I think that materializes. I think that they have enough professionals and veterans in that clubhouse that can play at a decent level that'll push them to 90 wins and probably win the NL East. It all for me kind of comes back to where we spent all that time with the Sixers and even the Eagles in the early 2000s. Like, yeah, I know they're going to be good.
Yeah.
But is it going to be any different at the end?
Well, and it almost feels like the Phillies internally feel like people soured on Nick Castellanos so much that if we just flip him out, that would be enough for people to say, oh, they got rid of Castellanos. He was the biggest problem. I don't know that that's a legitimate view of things here.
I don't think it's fair to Nick Castellanos, who was not good last year, and we know what he is in right field. And look, I mean, that act wore thin. It got old, but I think it's unfair to say that the Phillies' shortcomings last year were, squarely on the shoulders of Nick Castellanos. It's just not true. And so right now in this moment, I think that you're looking at a good baseball team that just is a player short. Now, you mentioned Bregman earlier. And again, it's a similar situation where, like, if that contract is not 5 or 6 years and it becomes 3 or 4 years, would the Phillies like enter that conversation? Like, I would think that they would have to. Like, that to me is something that would change the feel, the look, the intent going into next season. And in previous years, I would have made the point and I would have said, like, look, they could go into next year knowing that they have a good team and that they can add at the deadline and they can tweak and really kind of go for it come summertime. But, I've said that each of the last 3 seasons, and they haven't really been that team that's like dropped the hammer and going all in and made the move. And so I think it's more, unlikely than it is likely that it would be any different this year. It's going to be the same thing. There's going to be 20 teams at the end of July that think that they can win. It's going to be really hard to go get a guy. Like, I don't think you can bank on making those changes in season.
Any world you live in where you get creative and get a little crazy and put Crawford in the leadoff spot, hit Turner 2, Harper 3, Schwarber 4, and then, you got maybe Garcia, Bohm 5, or is that way out in the right field?
I just don't think, in time, maybe when you get to July, if things look good with Crawford, that you would do that. But I guess it's not impossible, Mike, but
I'd be shocked. I'm just saying, like,
I would be floored on opening day if Crawford's hitting the leadoff.
Yeah, because right now you're looking at Turner, Schwarber, Harper. You're right back in the same spot you were. What are you going to hit Bohm for, Garcia for, Real Muto for? I mean, that's just simply not good enough. And then last year, you had times this season we'd have conversations like, no World Series team is hitting Brandon Marsh in the 5-hole. Like, what are you doing? So, and that's what it's shaping back up to be right now. I mean, you got a guy like Marsh hitting 5 or 6, depending on if a righty, it's like
that's a tricky spot. Like, that's a tricky spot with where the Phillies are at right now. Like, Brandon Marsh is a nice player. I think that locally here we're like a little bit over it. Like, we're a little tired of it. It's like, yeah, I know he's a good guy and he's a good player, but like I don't need to see it again. That's, I think, where people are at with Bohm. Like, sometimes the behavioral stuff on the field is annoying, but like in terms of his abilities as a back of the lineup hitter, like, we're probably undervaluing what he could be. And that puts the Phillies in a tough spot because they're probably looking at it from a perspective of like, what are these guys really worth? And their worth is probably a little bit higher than how we as a fan base or a media evaluate it. Now, I'll say this, like, if you are the Phillies, you sit here and say, like, we have some limitations in how we can do payroll. And while the fans may not like it, the fact of the matter is that, like, if 1 or 2 things bounced a different way, we could have won that series against the Dodgers, and who knows what happens. And if 1 or 2 things bounce a different way against the Diamondbacks in 23, we could have won a World Series. Who knows what happens? So from their mindset, while we are fatigued and while we want to see change, could you not make the argument that if you just keep knocking on the door and you keep putting pucks on net and taking shots, that eventually, it's going to break your way? And it's annoying, But like, is that an insane philosophy? Like, probably not.
Well, you also have to keep in mind, and I don't know what their view is long term of like a Harper and a Turner and now a Schwarber, but you got like 5 more cracks at it with that group of guys. So you take your best shots, and you think that group staying together, the continuity gives you your best shot. Adding Crawford next year, or maybe later this year, adding Miller. Sure. Adding Painter, and you keep adding these little internal pieces. You hope that one of the years, bang, it breaks your way, as opposed to just breaking it all up.
We all want to see the move that comes across the ticker where you go, whoa, yeah, here we go. They're not screwing around anymore. Like, it's different now. We're going to go get the Dodgers. Let's get fired up. Let's go to Dick's Sporting Goods and go buy the jersey. The fact of the matter is, though, like, they've done those moves leading up to where they're at now. And
yeah, they give you the wow moves.
They gave you those moves. And
yep.
Now those moves have to materialize.
Yeah.
So not only is it, well, if we just keep, as I said, like putting pucks on net, well, in my mind, if I'm running the Phillies, I say, can I get more out of my first baseman in the playoffs next year? I hope so. Am I going to have a better Trey Turner in the postseason next year? I hope so. I mean, he came off of a long stint being sidelined going into the postseason. He wasn't the same player in that series as he was when, he was the only player in baseball to hit 300 for the bulk of the season. Like, I need more out of Bryce Harper at $25 million. I need more out of Trey Turner at whatever it is, $30 million or $28 million. Like, I need those guys to be better, and that's part of my calculation as I move forward. And if those guys aren't going to be better, doesn't really matter. Am I a Harrison Bader insurance policy this offseason away from really being where I want to be come next October? Probably not at this point. And that's why I'm like, well, if you're going to do the Garcia thing, I don't need Bader. Like, what's Bader going to do for you at this point? Is he going to be the difference maker?
Yeah, I've been kind of wishy-washy on Bader because he's not been the player. You got the best 50-game run out of him, out of his career. If you sign him to this 3-year, $30 to $40 million deal, you end up being, man, we're stuck with this guy. So I can understand.
He was awesome, and he was a big part of, making people feel like that maybe it could be different next year. And when he went out and it left Brandon Marsh exposed in the middle of that lineup, that was the series. Like, I'm not saying they would have won the series had he not gotten hurt. I'm not saying that. In fact, I don't think they would have. But once he exited and you had that glaring deficiency in the middle of the lineup, that was it.
Yeah, and I think people kind of yearn to see, like, hey, this guy was exactly what we needed. He was the energy guy. Yeah. He was perfect for this town. He fit right in. But what does that look like?
Fine and well. And I'm a believer, as somebody that used to coach, like, I'm a big believer in, camaraderie and, guys feeding off of energy. And I think that that's incredibly important in terms of a dynamic, and being a successful baseball team. I do believe that. But the reason why we were so in love with all of those intangibles last year over those 2 months is because he produced. And if Harrison Bader comes back and he plays okay center field and he hits 230, nobody's going to give a damn that he's fun and has energy and that everything's a gift. And,
right.
Like, that stuff only works when the production comes with it. And I think that we might, in this city right now, in this moment, overvalue what he is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. No, I agree. But I would also throw in, if you roll out JT Realmuto, they said, is their next high priority. So you're bringing him back. And at that point, you would literally have, well, look, they're going to say, hey, Crawford's different. Garcia's different. I just don't see how the batting lineup has any extra depth to it. Outside of you telling me, hey, Adolis Garcia is going to go back to 2021 to 2023, and he's going to he's going to hit 30 home runs. I mean, outside of him being able to hit 27 to 35 home runs, you really didn't change this lineup a lick.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that next season that let's play some over-unders here. Do you think that Garcia hits better than 216?
Oh, my God. 216. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say slightly over.
Okay, slightly over. Do you think he's going to have a 300 on-base percentage or better?
No.
Do you think he's going to hit more than 18 home runs?
I'd be hopeful. I'll say yes, only because I'm hoping that look, one thing about him, he is a passionate player. He's the kind of guy that if he gets off to a good start here, people could like him immediately because he
People
will
love him. If he has a big April, like it's going to be all in. He's fun. He's fired up. He's a good defensive player. He plays hard. By all accounts, he's a good guy.
If that happens, then yeah, like the change of scenery, it's a better ballpark, it's better lineup, all that stuff. The potential is higher than what Nick probably could do for you. I would say that.
Well, those numbers I just read you, those over-under numbers were Max Kepler's numbers last year. And so what I'm essentially asking you is, like, can he be Max Kepler? And I think he can. I think he will be. Maybe not only on base percentage, but like I do think.
Yeah.
In
the Max Kepler defense, not for him, but last year I remember saying, how did Dave Dombrowski sit down in a boardroom and tell John Middleton, I need $10 million and I'm going to sign Max Kepler? This one I can at least understand. Hey, I need $10 million. What for? I'm going to bring in a right-handed bat who has had some power and has been a postseason performer, something that we have lacked. Those things I can understand. The pitch, the Kepler thing, I don't know what he was how he convinced Middleton. Can you imagine asking for $10 million and they say for what? And you said Max Kepler?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It never really made any sense. And I know that Max Kepler had like a week where he got hot and everyone's like, you owe Max Kepler and Dave Dombrowski an apology. Well, and I said, I certainly do not.
No. To be fair, when they moved him to right field and he kind of accepted that role, he settled in a little bit more. But as the everyday left fielder, as a left-handed bat, he made no sense.
Yeah.
But Garcia makes some sense. It just doesn't. He makes sense. I just don't see it as an upgrade of a significance of what this team needs. A guy to hit in the middle of the lineup and protect. Now, could you tell me, hey, this guy's the postseason all-time leader in single postseason RBIs, and he comes up in clutch situations and he produces? Okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, where they're at right now, I mean, the only name, and when I say the only name, of the names that are out there, like, look, they can blindside you with just name a player totally off the grid, and all of a sudden he's here, and we're like, wow, didn't see that coming. But like just with all the usual suspects and the names that we've been talking about for the last 2 months, the only name right now that would make, I think, people, myself included, feel a little bit better about the dynamics of the lineup, not just the order, but really like the DNA of the lineup, the way it functions, the way it thinks, the way it performs, it would be Bregman, right?
Yeah.
It feels unlikely. It still feels unlikely that it would materialize that way. And it feels like that they are somewhat at capacity in terms of what they want to spend, unless it comes from the Japanese market, which they just seem hell-bent on entering and being a part of. And maybe that's about gaining momentum for future prospects, future, players of interest in that market. Part of it, I think, is opening it up to a different revenue stream. Like, you generate that interest in Japan.
Yeah.
Going out and signing those players, like that's a whole different thing for you in terms of the financial implications and the revenue implications. And so like that does feel like the one place that they'd be willing to extend themselves if something were to materialize. But that looks like it's going to be more about the starting pitching market,
right.
not position player market. So
well, that's an interesting avenue to keep an eye on. We'll do that. The one guy, if I can somehow kick the tires and find a way to get Marte, that would be an interesting addition to this lineup. Now, it's making it very 30-ish. Marte 32, Garcia 32, if that's even true.
I really like Marte as a player, and if I were constructing a team to try to win this year and I wasn't thinking about what came after that, and maybe they're at a place where they really are thinking more like it's a very narrow focus, but it's hard to say, like, let's add another 32-year-old to the mix here.
Exactly, exactly.
That's tough. But look.
And Bregman's in that age group as well.
Yeah, and look, this is my finishing thought on all of this, and I'm trying to stall as I bring this up here. But, like.
Well, hurry, you got to go.
If we're in a place right now where we say, what teams are on the short list of winning a championship? I'm just going to go by odds in this moment. I'm going to give you the 10 teams with the best odds right now. Brewers, plus 2,000. Red Sox, plus 1,700. Mets, which I don't get at all, plus 1,600 in this moment because nobody likes their offseason. The Braves, plus 1,600. The Braves are going to have a good lineup. Blue Jays plus 1,500. Mariners plus 1,300. Astros 1,300. Phillies have the third best odds right now behind only the Yankees and the Dodgers. Like, that's the thing. We're all like, come on, this press conference yesterday, Dombrowski's comments, underwhelming, uninspiring. What are these guys doing? Like, you zoom out, man. I'm telling you, I said this a couple shows ago, there were 25 teams in baseball that would trade places with the Phillies' current position in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no doubt about that, although the betting market is because they know the Phillies fans will put money on those guys.
Sure, it's not always just about, hey, who do we think's the best? There's multiple factors, but the Phillies are going to spend. They're going to get to July. They're going to be in it. They'll kick the doors on adding. They're a safe bet. Like they're a high floor.
They're one of the 5 best teams in baseball, even though we complain.
Yeah.
I know you got to go.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man. Ho ho ho.
Talk soon.
See ya. All right, there's Bob, and we'll finish off with that. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to Now Batting for the Phillies and Mike and Bob Phillies Chat. We'll try to do one more before the Christmas holiday if the Phillies get something going. And, of course, you can like, share, and subscribe here on the BFA Live Sports YouTube channel. Take care, everybody.